Here's a long one.
Oh,
Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly deep.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of All Nat, brought to you by OTS. I'm your host, Natalie, but most people call me Nat. And on today, this fine Klay day, Klay as in Klay Thompson, I'm here with one of my favorite people to discuss Warriors basketball with, and that's Steve Berman, or how many of you may know him from the Twitter timeline as BA Sports Guy, which is Bay Area, right, Steve?
That's right. Bay Area, always.
And he is with The Athletic, and lately he's been focusing on, even though there's a lockout, MLB and the Oakland A's, but he, covers and talks about all Bay Area sports. So I'm so happy to have him on the show today. This is like a big day for the Bay Area. And even though I'm not there, if you're a fan of the Warriors, it was just like a big day, like football. It was a big day, like basketball wise. So really, really big day for the Bay Area. And definitely for fans of the Warriors, it was a big day because it was the day that Klay returned. And so I want to talk about that. I don't know. I just want to know what the buzz was like over there. Like if it was anything like the way it was on Twitter, I'm sure it was great. So yeah, I want to know what it was like and get your perspective. So are you invested in any of these teams? Like, I know you cover them, but like, are you fans of any of them that it like matter to you, these outcomes?
Well, now that I work professionally, and thanks for having me on that. I know we've talked many times about the Warriors and other stuff in the past, and so it's great to be on your podcast. I'm glad you have a podcast. This is cool. Really, I stopped being a fan once I started getting into press boxes. So, and that was actually the Warriors were the first team to let me do that back in 2011. They had a blogger day, and my blog, BayAreaSportsGuy.com, was one of the ones that were invited, and that led to me and a handful of other guys getting press passes for games and stuff. Like me next to like Ethan Strauss and Danny LaRue and Rich Twu from Let's Go Warriors, and we had tables that we'd sit at above the lower level that were for press, and they were half empty. It'd be like me and Ethan and maybe like Rich, and then like 3 or 4 empty seats. And then fast forward 5 years later, and it's insane. Like the locker room is completely crowded, and so the whole thing changed. But once you get into press boxes and you are told not to cheer, you sort of get jaded to all that kind of stuff. And so I think that anyone wants to be a fan and be emotional, that's great. I don't really like it when many people sort of rag on fans or try to police fans for being emotional. Like that's why you get into it. If you're not emotional, who cares?
Right.
But just for it became work at some point. I still enjoy it. I still, get hyped up about certain things I see, but like a lot of people in the media say, it ends up being more about like the people you interact with than the laundry that they're wearing.
Yeah, policing fandom is definitely not cool.
No.
It's sort of been a little topic lately on the TL.
Actually, I saw you tweeting about it recently. Yeah, it's just like...
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe there's one way to be a fan, but I am unabashed. Like, I love the Warriors. Those are my guys. And I'm never going to go too crazy on them. Like, even if they're not performing at their best, right? Like, I can be a little critical, but it's never going to be like, you guys are playing like shit. Get it together. I just, I can say like, oh, Steph is in a shooting slump, but I'm not going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, that's just not what...
Mentioning them on Twitter, which is the absolute worst. Like,
oh my God. Yeah. So I'm not going to do those things. But, there are some people who will. And so we don't necessarily see eye to eye on that. And, it's just been interesting because they kind of like knock the people who are like me, like, oh, you're not objective. Well, you know what? They don't fucking pay me to be objective. Like, I'm a fan. My clients, as I'm a lawyer, my clients pay me to be objective in like legal matters. Actually, They pay me to advocate for them. But in theory, like in a legal matter, yes, I look at all the facts and I'm objective. I don't want to do that shit. with sports
Yeah.
on my team. Like, I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna be like a hardcore fan. I'm gonna like go, hard for my guys and defend them, and that's it. And that's how I feel. That's how I'm gonna be as a fan. So if people don't like it, I'm probably not the person for them. But if you do, then I probably am, because I'm super passionate and I love the Warriors and I love talking about them. And I love talking about them with Steve. We have lots of conversations about the Warriors. I know when you were younger, similar to me, like you really loved Magic. He was like one of your favorite players. And you often say like you think in ways Steph is like a modern day Magic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I look at him, and I guess it was sort of my response to everyone comparing him with Steve Nash. Everyone talks about Nash, and I see the parallels. Don Nelson worked with both of them. They both are guys that can play make and can make great passes, nice handle, and also have range. Steve Nash now admits he didn't shoot as much as he should have, but they didn't really know that back when he was playing
Right.
in the 2000s. But just in terms of energy and not just getting the crowd hype, but also getting their teammates hyped and just sort of bringing a palpable sense of energy that you can't really explain with statistics or really anything. You can't explain it with PER or true shooting percentage. There's just sort of like, the lights get brighter when those guys are playing. Magic was that guy back in the 80s. Jordan was that guy in the 90s. He did it differently. It was more of an individual thing, but he was just so much better than everything anyone had ever seen. And he did bring his teammates up to a certain level just because they're afraid that if they didn't play well enough, yell at them. Magic and Steph weren't really that way. And Steph is just the guy who's really the Magic of the NBA because he's the guy everyone wants to watch. And that might upset some people, of certain fans of certain guys. And that doesn't mean that they're not great players too, but they just don't have that it factor that Steph does.
It's really remarkable, like how much people love Steph, and I don't know if you saw recently a quote, like Kevin Garnett actually said, like, Steph is like the MJ. He said the MJ of his era because he was talking about Andrew Wiggins, and he basically was saying like, playing with these guys and it's like a different environment. It's like, Steph is like the MJ of Wiggins era, is like what he was saying. And of course, I love that. And it's not the first time Kevin Garnett has actually compared Steph like with Michael Jordan in that way, because he's just like, all the stuff this guy's doing, we haven't seen anything like this since MJ, just in terms of like the hype around him. And I mean, Kerr has said it too, like, they're going to different cities and like people waiting outside the hotel, they're almost like rock stars, right? Like traveling. And I never understood why people get so upset when you say that. Like, no one is saying that he plays like MJ or he's like, it's just the effect he has on people is MJ like. And I think that's fair. I think that's accurate, just based on my many years of watching, the NBA. I really haven't seen that many players like him, and he does have that impact.
I think it's magnetism. He draws people to him that wouldn't normally give a shit about any of this. And they see him, and for whatever reasons, whether it's his size, the crazy shots that he takes that no one else has, just sort of the way that he carries himself on the court, there's just a magnetism that he draws people in to watch him warm up before games. MJ was the same way. I never got to see him live, which is like one of my, sort of regrets in life, is I never went to see Michael Jordan play basketball in person, but it was the same way. I mean, the crowd would be there, way before tip off. I mean, you can name off pretty much any star in the game right now. No one's saying, I need to show up an hour and a half early so I can watch James Harden do his warm-up routine. Or KG. I mean, and if you do watch those guys do the routines, it's really interesting if you're a basketball head. But Steph's a guy who's sort of transcended to a point where little kids are going to love him. moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas. I mean, he drew my late grandmother into the game. Like, she didn't care at all about
Everyone.
basketball. She was only a Giants fan for baseball, and that was it. And she watched every Giants game. And in her later years, she became a huge Warriors fan from like 2012 to 2016 when she passed away. And I think for sure it was Steph.
Yeah, I always say that, like, he's brought new fans to the game. He's brought back some people who left, because some people are like that, like a player or someone they were really connected to leaves and they don't like watch as much anymore. I've heard a lot of people say they've come back because of him. He's brought in like some of the casual fans. So I mean, he's been so great for the sport. I don't even want to think about what it will be like when he's gone, but I think we still have some time for that. So, but today, the man of the day, of the hour, of everything is Klay. Klay Thompson returned tonight. And it was like this big lead up to it, right? I actually thought he wasn't going to come back until next week for the Detroit game. Like when I was looking from a distance, because I was like, that's just perfect. It's a home stand. They're going to be home for 7 games. It was like Detroit, Indy, Houston, maybe. It was like some like light teams to start off. So I was like, that's the kind of stuff you want to bring him back for, because I knew after this Cavaliers game, which the Cavs are also a good team, they were then going to go on the road, and you got Memphis. You got Milwaukee. You have like the Bulls.
Not an easy road trip at all.
No, it's not. And so I was just like, nah, there's no chance. But then, it happens, and people have been excited for like basically like the last few days. But when it like definitely got confirmed yesterday by Klay, like it's just been, antics, I want to say, on like the TL, like showing old Klay games, your favorite Klay moment, like celebrating. It was really something momentous for this fan base who been like clamoring to have Klay back, right? You weren't there tonight, right? No, you weren't. Okay. But I wish
I wasn't there.
I really want to know like what the atmosphere was like in there. I've talked to a few people who were there, and they said it was crazy. But like, is there another moment in like NBA that you can like liken this to, like with Klay missing those 2 years and then coming back, and like it just like, because it seemed like everyone couldn't wait to have him back, not just Warriors fans, but like, every like all the other players, like you had all the sports outlets tweeting about it. It was a big deal. And I'm trying to think of like when I witnessed something else like that, and I was struggling.
Oh, well, it hasn't happened, I don't think, in the last 10 years. I think the last one was when MJ started with the Wizards, because he had been off, and then what's he just going to look like, and just the fact that we get to see him on the court. Right. Also, when MJ came back after his baseball journey, his little sabbatical, and he put the "I'm back" fax, I think he sent, and then came back as number 45. And then the only other one I think that's comparable. These guys are bigger icons, of course, than Klay, who's I think should be a top 75 player and will be at some point. But these guys are top 5 all time. When Magic came back after his HIV diagnosis, when I remember when he came back, that was a enormous thing for the entire league too. Obviously, there's no Twitter. He didn't have players on Instagram saying, I'm so glad to have you back. But that was the only time that I can remember, because I think it was cool to see KD come back from his Achilles as well. But that was also, it was a weird time when that occurred too. So, and KD, for whatever reasons, hasn't really grabbed the populace quite like that. His Q rating isn't like Klay's. Klay really is unique in that, I mean, even Steph has haters, but Klay doesn't have any haters at all. No. So, I mean, on other teams, other fan bases be like, they would do anything to see the Warriors lose, but they're still like, yeah, but I kind of like Klay. Or even if they don't say it, they're thinking it in the back of their head, which is just a weird thing in this day and age when everyone has to be upset about something. So I think Klay, coming back, it's been huge buzz, not just in the last few days, but a lot of people were disappointed. They thought he'd come back for that Kings game in December.
I know, and they jacked up the prices of tickets, and I feel really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they thought that he might come back for the Denver game too, and so a lot of people got tickets for that one.
Yeah.
And so but then it seemed obvious when then they started reporting. I think Woj did, hey, it's going to be after January. But I think that this is one where Klay is probably just itching to get back, and he was so good in the scrimmages. It seemed like from what I had heard, people saying that he was actually playing like really, really well. So
Right.
It wasn't that surprising that he played as well as he did tonight, even though it still was kind of surprising because the dude's coming off 2 major injuries and he's dunking on guys.
Right. I think like sort of an unintended consequence of like that Denver game getting canceled is probably that it upped Klay's return maybe like a week or so, because it seemed like they got some practice time in. They were able to,
that's a good point,
do some things that they weren't planning to maybe do so quickly because they would have had to play. And so it kind of quickened how soon he returned. So I don't think anyone is mad about that, even though I know they were mad about not being able to play the game. But I do think that was like one of the things that came from it. So what did you think tonight? Like, how did you think, he looked?
I thought he looked obviously not totally himself, but as good as I could have figured. I mean, the fact that he took it to the rack in the first possession that he got the ball, his first touch. Kerr, after the game, said that the play was meant for him just to sort of kick it out, and he wasn't that surprised, and Klay took it to the hole. And he actually showed a little bit of hang time when he made that shot. That was the surprising thing to me. I knew he was going to shoot the first time he touched the ball. That's Klay.
Right.
And Klay does that normally. So
Klay's not a big time passer.
No, he's not. Like I saw like somebody saying, over under on assists for Klay this year with his average 2.5. And I'm going way under because he's probably not going to play super high minutes, and it's Klay. But yeah, the fact that he actually was able to have a little bit of hang time, that's not something Klay's known for. And and then he bricked a few shots in a row. I think he was 1 for 5 in his first 5 minutes out there, and then he came back in and he had that dunk, and then I was like, okay, that was not what I was expecting. Right. For one thing, how often do you see Klay cross up anyone? Granted, he was crossing up. The
dunk was my favorite thing of the night. Favorite.
He didn't just slam it on him. He didn't just stuff it on him, but then the way he landed was like super awkward, like and kind of aggressive. And then some fans said they
were having like PTSD. I loved it, but I guess I could get how that was triggering for people.
Well, I was actually kind of worried one time in the first run that he had, and there was some turnover or something, and he kind of hobbled as I forget who it was, if it was Mobley or who scored a layup, and they were both in the backcourt, Klay and one of his teammates, I can't remember who, and Klay just kind of tripped a little bit. I was like, oh no, did he just tear his Achilles again? And then he gets the ball, gets it out, inbounds it and trots back down like normal Klay. I was like, oh, okay, he's fine. And then he started hitting jumpers. So he didn't have a great shooting percentage, and some of his fadeaways looked a little short early on, especially. Right. But then once he hit his first 3, it was sort of like he was back in rhythm. And also the amazing thing that I thought from this game was that it seemed like it just took a big weight off of Steph's shoulders. His shot looked completely different tonight. His finishing looked completely different tonight than he did in the
first half. Too. The second half wasn't so great, but
no, but he had that first half little roll going where he was 4 for 4 from 3, and the shot, he didn't look like he was hesitating like he was during that slump where he would get it. You can almost see the wheels turning like, okay, yeah, I will shoot, and that's not Steph. So
he's been overthinking a lot on the court.
I think so.
Whatever. I mean, I just expect his shooting to fix itself,
Oh, of course. He's been doing it for 13 years. I think he'll be fine.
If everyone could just take that approach, Steve, the world would be a better place. I was thinking about what you were saying earlier too about the hating, because there were actually a couple of people that tried to hate on Klay coming back. And they more so were like trying to like mock Warriors fans, like,
Sure.
our excitement, or like they were just like, yeah, I guess Klay's the first person to ever come back from injury. Like, are you serious, bro? How's this even a thing?
So people just want attention. Like there's just some people who either they're jealous and they don't, that because they don't have that feeling themselves and they want to, or they just are someone who online wants attention from people, and negative attention is just makes them feel just as good. Sometimes they're even going for negative attention. So whatever. Like, yeah, I saw someone say something like, oh, the media is riding Klay. He's going to play 20 minutes a game. And well, yes, you're also talking about a guy who won 3 titles. You went to 5 straight finals, got hurt, missed 2 straight years with 2 of the worst injuries you can have. And he's also, a big figure in terms of personality wise in this region and the nation and throughout the world. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit bigger deal than like, say, if Jalen Brunson injured himself and came back a year later. I'm sorry, it just is. It's just the way it goes. And some people are going to be upset, but you don't have to listen to them.
Listen, I love it. I love the reception he got. I love that it was turned into Klay Day. I love that everyone was talking about it because he deserves that. And it was exciting. It was really good to see him back. He looks so happy, and it was pretty like emotional, like I didn't break down and cry. I did break down and cry when Steph broke the record. I was there for that though.
You were there.
Yeah, I think if I would have been in the building though at Chase for Klay's return, maybe I would have gotten a little choked up, but I was definitely feeling it, watching it. I will get to see him soon though. So, I'm excited for that in person. Just so happy to have him back and be out there. And you could tell his guys were happy. Dre, just everyone. You could tell they were all so excited.
Looney has been one of the most outspoken guys throughout Klay's rehab. He's like the guy who'll, when no one else will be talking about Klay, like, oh, Klay looks great in rehab. I've never seen him this locked in. And, Tim Kawakami wrote something great for The Athletic recently about all the centers that Klay had become friends with. And Loon wasn't included. And I think, Looney would probably have some interesting things to say too. He talked to Bogut, talked to David West, and he talked to Zaza. And did he talk to anybody else? I think I'm missing someone. But anyways, but Looney, I think tonight looked as frisky as I've seen him in a
what did he grab, like 19
situation.
boards?
Let me see here. I think
it was something insane.
I think he had 18 or 19, which is for Looney, well, for anybody. But yes. He had 18 rebounds. That's 4 steals.
How many rebounds was it?
18.
18. Okay.
So that's
I know.
I think his career high was like 15. So
can't even knock him for the double pumps and all of that tonight under the room, because he was just like a beast. And this was the most personality I saw. Like I saw, I think it was Sports Center. They had like a little like Instagram reel that they caught of him, like right before they like checked in, like when they're by the chalk and everything over by the table. And he was like pretending like he was playing a keyboard, and he was like, and like, dude, I was like, Loon? Like, I didn't even know you had this much personality. So it was cool to see. They were all excited, man.
Oh, very much so. I bet Dre was totally pissed off that his calf tightened up before the game.
Yeah, because I was like, because we actually saw, like, it was the Cavaliers reporter who actually said something about it first, and she ended up deleting her tweet because, like, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, Warriors PR just announced that he's playing. So, like, we were confused, and then eventually, did come down like he wasn't playing. So, I mean, I'm glad they could get the W. And it sounds like it was probably a little bit more precautionary than anything, but hopefully he'll be good for the next games, because we will need Dre in those matchups. But I'm glad they got the W. I'm glad that he got to still do the tip off with Klay. I'm glad Klay returned. I mean, it was an amazing night overall. So I am really ecstatic. I don't have any complaints. I think Klay Day went well.
Oh, he had 17 points. I mean, his first game back, 18 shots in 19 minutes.
Very Klay-like stat line. And he
was
hit
funny.
a big shot too. Like when the Cavaliers were making that run near the end before he got pulled again, he made like a three that was like really pretty timely. So I said, okay, Klay's still clutch. Good. We need that.
No, he's the same. That's the thing. It's sort of emblematic of his entire personality, because his personality never changes, and that's what everyone says about him. So it makes sense that, I mean, he said he was nervous coming into the game, but his game was still the same. You know, it wasn't like, and that's what I think a lot of people were worried about was when he comes back, is he going to be this sort of slower Klay who just being a spot up shooter? Maybe you don't stick him on guys who are, really capable offensively to help out other players on the floor. He can't guard guards anymore, at least for, at least point guards this year. He wasn't really guarding point guards, but he was guarding bigs pretty well. He actually gave Mobley some trouble a couple times. Mobley scored over him one time, but the defense was great.
Yeah.
He got a block, I think, on Garland. I can't remember if it was Garland or someone else. Garland actually had a poor game today. He's been ripping it up the entire season. He
has all-star
all-star.
Yeah.
And he had 9 points today on 3 of 11 shooting. And I think it wasn't all Klay, obviously, but I think the defense itself was just fantastic tonight, because I think they realized they needed to win this game.
The Warriors defense, let's just talk about that for a little bit, because whether Dre is there or not, it is held up, right? Yeah. And that's not to Dre is the quarterback of the defense, and he's clearly DPOY, but I'm just saying the fact that they're still playing that level of defense without Dre is pretty impressive. I know they lost that Denver game, but to be down the way they are and then come back and hold Denver to 29 second half points, that's incredible. And Jokic was really inefficient that night in terms of his shooting. The defense is just so elite. It's really, really impressive.
I think what really helps them is that they have 4 elite defensive guys off the bench. I mean, obviously it's great to have Wiggins there to guard your best perimeter player. It's great to have Draymond there to quarterback the defense. I think and Looney obviously is a guy that Kerr loves just because of his defense, and that's really it. The rebounding too, but mostly just the defense. But when you have Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, Andre Iguodala, and Juan Toscano Anderson, who just bothers people almost as much as GP2 does, just as being a pest. When those guys come in, those guys also, they know that when somebody like Dre is out, they have a bigger opportunity for minutes. So you don't have guys cruising saying, oh, well, Dre's not here. We don't have our heartbeat of our team, supposedly. So we're going to take a night off. It actually kind of seems like the other way. It's almost like they're in better position when Dre's on the floor, because he directs everyone and tells them all what to do, and he knows everyone in the league's tendencies. But when he's gone, it seems like, especially the role players, kind of play a little bit harder. I don't know if that's true or not. It just seems like something I experienced watching.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things that I've seen, that I've noticed, is if Dre isn't around. Not even if Dre isn't around, but I think I just noticed it in a game where I can't remember if Dre didn't play or maybe he just wasn't on the court. But Steph was out there directing everyone. He was telling people what spots to get into. Yeah. And I was just Steph's defense has just been, Steph has always been underrated as a defender and the way people talk about him. But this year he's really, really playing really good defense. And because I even
much better than ever.
Yeah, I even heard Jeff Van Gundy the other day on TV be like, Steph Curry's a good defender. Full stop. That's it. And but to see him out there directing people, it was just this is impressive stuff. This is. And then you have to still turn around and do what you do on the offensive end, something that the other players on the team don't have to turn around and do, and so that's pretty, aside from Wiggins, but it's still different, with Wiggins, and obviously now Klay's back. I think, you talked about the fact that he was guarding some bigger guys. I kind of have a feeling it's going to be like that. I think they're going to keep Andrew on the point of attack and have him doing.
as they should. I mean, there's no
Right.
reason to run Klay into the
Exactly.
ground. I mean, I think we noticed just in the last few games with the offense struggling, what they need Klay for right now, at least in the regular season, is to get them out of offensive ruts. I mean, their
Yes.
defense is fine. Their defense plays on the road, it plays at home, plays with Dre, it plays without Dre. Their offense, though, every once in a while, lately, more than once in a while, goes in these shooting slumps to where, I mean, if Jordan Poole doesn't have it going and Steph doesn't have it going, I mean, even if Wiggins does, it's not enough.
It's not. And I mean, I do think their offensive struggles lately are tied to like Steph's shooting struggles because they feed so much off of him. So he does need to like really hopefully snap out of it soon. Klay will definitely help with that. The spacing was much, I told people like the moment Klay steps on the court, it's going to help because they're going to guard him like he's Klay Thompson. No one's going to be like, oh, he missed 2 years. So
it seemed like in the second quarter they kind of did. When he hit his first three, he was wide open. I think the Cavaliers like, okay, show us. You made that one layup and then you missed 4 jumpers in a row. Okay, we're gonna let you open and see if you're washed right now. And then he hit that 3, and then all of a sudden the defense started coming towards him a little bit more.
Right.
So it's gonna be much easier for the offense to run, regardless of what the other personnel is on the floor. When you have Klay playing 20, 25 minutes a game as the season goes on, way easier. And that's because the defense is going to play, and Klay isn't going to be. I could tell from tonight. He's not going to be as good as he was a couple of years ago, at least not in the short term. But he's not going to be a negative on defense.
Exactly. He's going to be better than Poole.
Yeah, he's going to be better than Poole. He's going to be better than probably Bielitsa as well, although they play different positions.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be okay.
I do too. And I think one of the biggest things I love about Klay being back is not the 3-point shooting, it's the mid-range, because this team, I know they're leaning into math and shooting more threes, but I feel like they have a propensity. It's just feeling a little bit too Houston Rockets like for me, like the threes are not falling and they keep shooting them. And I'm like, people drive, take a mid-range, something. And he had no problem today just going, like Otto will do it occasionally. Steph has not been doing it as much as he would in the past, but like Klay did it. He didn't just keep trying to take threes all night. And he went to his mid-range. He drove to the basket. And Klay, to me, is like an underrated like slasher. Like he cuts really well and he gets to the basket. He always has. Now we'll see if that continues, now with him back and like his movement. But he looked good getting, to the rim tonight. And he really, though, I love like when he just like came inside and took the mid-range. I was like, yes, we need someone who can like remind them like you guys can do this too.
Yeah, they need a much more diverse offense than we've seen in the last week or so. I mean, especially when you're shooting like 5 for 28 and 3 and you just keep doing it. The other thing too is Klay is also someone that isn't going to get all into the overpassing thing that has just enveloped the team. Like they've always had that tendency sometimes, like especially when
I'm here.
Especially when Steph and Dre and Iguodala are all on the floor. Obviously, great players, Hall of Famers. But there's sometimes when they start getting too cute and they pass up open shots, they pass up open mid-range, they pass up open layups for threes. And it's like, dudes, like if you're not hitting these threes, don't
just take the shot.
Don't make Damian Lee bail you out just because, you thought you might get your shot blocked at the rim, like try to get fouled or something. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of times Warriors fans do a lot of complaining about the foul situation. Oh, there should more free throws than us. I mean, the refs aren't perfect all the time, but most of the time it's because the Warriors are hitting people with their hands, trying to get steals and not forcing the issue at the rim and settling for too many threes. And, the refs aren't going to reward you if you do that. So Klay is a guy who, when they're overpassing too much, the ball gets in Klay's hands, it's going to get stuck there and he's going to shoot. So that's actually a good thing. I mean, they need that. They just need a little bit more diversity in their offense, and he brings.
I agree. They're definitely like, I don't know if you saw that possession tonight where like the clock the shot clock was about to expire And like, I think it was Juan who put up a three. I actually think it did expire. I don't think he got it off in time, but they let it go.
I remember that. I thought the same thing.
And I was just like, there were about 2 or 3 different times in all that passing, I saw that someone could have taken a fucking shot and they didn't. And it was annoying me because I was like, what the hell? Just like some of those early turnovers from Steph, like I tried not to get mad at it, but I'm like, okay, I get that you want to get the ball to Klay, but you're being fucking careless right now. Like I need you to stop it.
Yeah, the whole one arm pass backwards over the shoulder, like that everyone knows is coming because they all know Klay's curling around the screen. You know, it's like and there's like it's all this traffic here. He does that all the time. The Dallas game was just ridiculous with the overpassing. Like they just would not stop passing. And I mean, yeah, I know when the Warriors are at their best, it's like, 35 assists on 43 made shots or whatever. But that's usually when like, it's like 2 passes to an open dude who's like wide open, not this whole, okay, well, I'm open, but this guy might be more open over here. But by the time the pass gets over cross court, they close out on him. So he passes it over here. And then he tries to thread the needle inside and it gets picked off. So it's, I mean, I don't know. I haven't gone to go to the locker room for a bit, or actually no one's going to the locker room right now, but even the press conferences, last time I did Warriors coverage was right before the pandemic started. I covered Warriors Sixers, which is one of the last 2 games before everything shut down, before Rudy Gobert changed the world. But like, I'd like to ask her, like, some, because we all know he loves ball movement, but does he get as frustrated sometimes with the overpassing? Because Don Nelson's big thing was always like, because he was big into ball movement too, but his favorite thing was do not pass up a good shot. If you have a good shot, I don't care when on the shot clock it is, just take it. And if you don't take it, I'll bench you.
Yeah, I mean, it like, honestly, the times it also kills me too is when like I see like Otto pass the ball to someone who's like a worse 3-point shooter than you. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Take that damn shot.
Yeah.
Like, and you'll see that a lot and like it'll end up in Andre's hands. No, I love Andre, but that's not who I want to take the shot, I know like, Andre has
know why he's open.
Exactly. Like I know Andre can hit like some big shots and he's done it. He seems to be like one of the like best big shot makers, like when you need it, but still, like, no, I don't want the ball making its way to Andre. Don't necessarily want it making its way to Dre. Like, y'all need to shoot this damn ball, So they do it sometimes. It's annoying, but hey, whatever. They're still winning.
It's a long regular season. They mess around too and sort of freelance and experiment during games. You can tell, especially games they feel like they can win.
Yeah.
Or time. I mean, when they really want to win, we saw on Christmas.
Right.
How they really can play. So that's there.
Right.
So and I think once they knew that was there, and once the Steph record was in the books, I think they took a little bit of a breath, and then COVID hit the team. So I think there's a lot of factors as to why before Klay came in that they kind of had some sputtering offensive performances. And also, I think they were looking forward to the Klay thing, because I think Klay's, as much as Steph makes the team better and all the gravity and everything like that, I think Klay is like the mascot of the team almost to a certain extent. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just remember hanging out in the locker room before he became like, everyone knew that Klay was like, this funny guy. Like, he was afraid to talk to the press. He would never talk to us.
I heard.
But I would like.
I heard. I saw.
But like, he had the locker in at least an Oracle next to Steph always, and I would just watch them banter back and forth between before and after games, and so I knew Klay had this personality that he wasn't showing anybody else, and so I think he just draws people to him. And he's likable, and I think that really you could see it today. It was tonight. It was just a game that I think everyone needed. The fans needed. The league needed, but definitely, especially the players. All the players looked more lively than I've seen them in a little bit of time here.
Yeah, no, definitely. It like rejuvenated them. And
yep,
that's definitely not a bad thing, getting ready to go into like the second half of the season almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I'm not upset, because what are they right now? They've won 30 and lost 9. Is that correct?
That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Is that the right record? Did I say
that? Yes, it is. Yeah,
so?
they're 30-9.
They're tied for first, but really they're number one because right now at this moment they own the tiebreaker over the Suns. So they have the best record in the league, in my opinion. They're the best team in the league, and they just got Klay Thompson back. I mean,
life isn't bad. It's
not at all.
You have to really nitpick. I mean, the interesting things are going to be, I think it was kind of interesting to see the rookies get some run in their previous game, and then now though that they're not. I mean, are they going to be hanging out in Santa Cruz? I mean, they got some good experience at the end of that game against New Orleans, but it's gonna be interesting when they're gonna sneak these guys back in the rotation. But
I feel like Kuminga is still gonna get like some minutes. I don't know where.
I think Kuminga is gonna be in the playoff rotation.
He needs to like get minutes. How have you felt about him? He's been good, right?
I think. Well, I mean, I just said I think he's gonna be in the playoff rotation. I thought this like 2 weeks ago. When they played against the Suns on Christmas, just the way that he was that Kerr brought him in specifically to defend Devin Booker, specifically to come in and sort of push the pace a little bit offensively, because he's also a guy that's not going to overpass, and he's not afraid to take it inside.
No,
I think he's also fearless. So I think he's a guy who's definitely going to get a 6 to 8 minute role at least on through a lot, and maybe not against every matchup. But in certain ones, yeah, if they end up facing, say, the Lakers, and, hey, why don't you go bother LeBron for a little bit, I mean, obviously LeBron has, a lot of mental tools that are going to mess up with the rookie. But, these guys who are some of the best guys in the league, he can stay with them. He can also stay with power forwards. He can even guard some centers. And he's also a guy who kind of just make stuff happen. It's a lot like GP2 that way. The ball just ends up in his hands. He gets deflections. He pushes. He gets the ball and pushes the pace a little bit. Sometimes even is he perfect? Does he make all his free throws? No. Is his shot kind of wonky?
Time he's developing.
No. But that won't be his role. Like Kerr will be like, your job is to go harass their small forward, and so he's able to do that now already, and he plays really intelligent defense for a 19-year-old. So I think that already engenders him to Kerr right now, because Kerr's going to worry about defense only. So from what I've seen, he's going to get playoff minutes, which for a guy that age, coming out of the G League, coming out of the Congo, like to me, that's pretty remarkable and shows that he's got a huge ceiling.
I think that, I mean, no, some people are going to definitely see their times go down. I think you're going to see less Damian Lee going forward.
Sure.
Probably less Belly would be my guess. I also don't know how many more minutes Juan is going to see, because I mean, now that Klay is back, I mean, it's going to be some time too, because Klay's only playing 20 minutes a night, right? But as Klay starts to ramp up more minutes and they kind of want to start to solidify their playoff rotation, so we have a little bit longer where you're probably going to be seeing like everyone. But I think those are some of the people that I expect to like not really be seeing minutes. I don't know how much more of like Moody you'll really see aside from like maybe a blowout and he comes in.
Yeah, barely any Moody, no more Chiozza. I think you're gonna, yeah.
Thank God.
Probably anyone listening to this podcast probably isn't really too upset I just said that. I think what those guys are going to be, like the Damian Lee and Juan Toscano Anderson kind of guys, are going to be guys who will get run here and there when Kerr likes the matchup, but mostly they're going to be there for Andre's going to get a lot of rest days from here to the rest of the year. I think Draymond's going to get a lot of rest days from here to the rest of the year. I think Steph is probably going to get a few more now that Klay's back. So those are the guys that are.
But in what kind of matchups? I mean, they still are pretty much like they struggle without Steph on the court still.
Oh, they definitely do. But I think that, as Klay comes back and is able to handle a little bit more of a workload, I think there will be not very often, not like Andre Iguodala rest, but like
it'll probably be the games where they think it's a team that they can beat without Steph.
Yeah,
like a lesser opponent.
A back-to-back against Sacramento, that kind of thing. It's
maybe not Sac because they always play us well, but I hear you.
That's true. Yeah.
No. I hear
They,
you.
they escape my mind, but back to back against a team at the
Pistons.
level of Detroit, right? So so those guys will just have to be ready, and they're veterans, and say, all right, because I think that the reason why JTA played so much tonight, even with Klay coming back, is because Draymond didn't play.
Right. And I always said that like about JTA, like that, when a lot of people were a little worried about him in the beginning of the year and he wasn't, like, it seemed like he had got like bench, and I'm just like, well, I mean, JTA is gonna get his minutes, I think, a lot when Andre's out, or like to split that time with Andre, because they want to play Andre less, so they have more of him like in the future. So I don't really mind that. I love GP2 getting minutes, so I think the only people I just really feel like we're gonna see less of are like Lee and Belly, and I think eventually JTA. Like, I think, like, I don't know that, like, those guys might see some like playoff minutes like here and there, but I don't think they'll be the regular rotation. I think if I had to pick, I think that's going to be so Steph, Klay, Dre, Andrew, Looney, Poole. That's already 6 people, right? Andre, 7, Otto, 8.
Yep. 8 is
GP2,
generally
9, and then I guess if you add in Kuminga, that's 10. I think
Kuminga for like spot minutes, like at the end of quarters and stuff, to when they need to stop.
Yeah, everyone else, I like can't really see them, getting in there.
I mean, Kerr says during the playoffs, you don't play more than 10 guys. A lot of times you don't play 10 guys. So
right. Most people only go like 9 deep. So
that right there is fine. And then of course there's going to be injuries. So that you have to, that's the thing that.
But let's hope not. Let's hope not. Let's just let this be.
Knock on wood. They'll never get hurt.
Let this be a 2015, 2016 year where we are owed this. We are owed this after 2 years of just devastating injuries to our guys.
Well, in a way, yes, but 3 titles in 5 years and 5 finals in a row. It's
we're still owed it.
Such a bad.
We're still owed it. Like, he missed 2 whole seasons.
Health-wise,
missed
yes.
1.
Health-wise,
like,
yes.
It's like, come on. Like, even when people have injuries, they're not usually losing like 2 of their top guys like that. Like, that's just brutal.
Yeah, I remember when Baines fell on Steph's hand. That was just like, I was like, wow, okay, yeah, this really is a completely zero season right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was awful. So they're about to go on the road, and they're going to play the Grizzlies, who are like really hot right now. They just beat the Lakers tonight. I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, they were like whooping, like just demolishing the Lakers. It got close at the end, but that's because like they had their reserves in, and like the Lakers reserves made like a little run, and they actually had to bring Ja back in the game.
Who had the best block of the year, by the way.
It might be one of the best blocks of all time, to be honest.
That was insane. If anyone didn't watch it, Avery Bradley tossed the ball up tried to float it up against the window. Ja just skies in and catches the ball about 1.5 feet over the rim, hits it against the backboard, and the ball bounces backwards so that it could be saved by a teammate, and somehow doesn't get decapitated by the backboard and lands underneath it. It was just the way that he caught it with 2 hands and hit the backboard with it 1.5 feet over the rim. Like, I tweeted, it was like, this is like one of those plays that they talk about, like they're on the playground, like at Rucker, or the playgrounds over here in Oakland or in LA or Chicago, where like, oh man, this legendary play happens,
right?
And even though it might not have happened, like 100,000 people claim to have been there and actually witnessed it in person. Hook Mitchell is a famous playground legend in Oakland, and apparently he jumped over a Mustang and dunked. And when I actually mentioned this on Twitter, somebody came to me, this guy named Bleacher Dave, who's a big time Oakland fan, total OG, goes, I saw the Hook dunk. And I didn't even mention the hook dunk, and that's what I was thinking of. That was that kind of play.
I mean, it's no Mustang, but speaking of jumping over people, did you see GP2 jump over Mobley this evening? I was like, what in the hell is going on?
His
Why
leaping
is
is
this
ridiculous.
little man so not little?
He's like a high, like an Olympic high jumper. Like,
oh my goodness. But yeah, Ja also had like another highlight in that Lakers game where he went up to like, I want to say it was to dunk or like was an alley maybe, and like he completed it, he converted, but like his head was like so close like by the rim he had to like move it. Like he's freaky athletic, like the insane levels of athleticism. It's just remarkable. And I like Ja. I mean, I know like some Warriors fans did not because of like the play in last year and like how people were talking, but I really do. I like him. And the Grizzlies are good. I mean, you know what I think, like, including myself, like underestimated them a little bit last year. Like I knew they were a solid team, but I still was like, oh, we can beat them. And I mean, I think if like really healthy, we probably would have, but you know, they came back this year. They made like a few changes to the team, and like people have to really start respecting them. I mean, I'm not sure that they're a contender, but I don't think this is like a first round out team. You know, I think
no, definitely not.
their ceiling is maybe the conference finals. And I think that they easily get to like the second round and push that, like, you know, in a far series. So we'll see what happens. You know, I remember Ja saying like he's a top 5 point guard. I think that was like in the off season, and a lot of us laughed, or I did. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, Ja. You know, and I like listed all the people who I thought were better. But I mean, right now he's playing like he's the second best point guard in the league. And in theory, if you're like really penalizing Steph for his shooting, then you could say he's playing like he's the best right now, right? So he's been incredible, and I'm interested to see where this Grizzlies team is going to go. But nonetheless, we're going to play them in Memphis on Tuesday. Is that? I think it's on Tuesday. So.
Yeah, Tuesday, and then Thursday they play the Bucks.
Right. So we're gonna play the Grizzlies on Tuesday. Dylan. I always call him Dylan. Dylan Brooks is out for 3 to 5 weeks, so that sucks for them. Guess it's not so bad for the Warriors since that man is always like just hounding Steph. I don't mind though. I like it. I like that because to me that like mimics a playoff atmosphere, right? And that's what he's going to be dealing with. So when we beat teams under those conditions, to me that's just practice, you know? So I like it, but whatever, he's not going to be there. So they have that game, and then they have, like you mentioned, the Bucks and Chicago, which is a back-to-back. So this is not an easy stretch. So I mean,
no,
I want to focus
Minnesota like 2 days later, which is, you know,
also not easy.
And it's in Minnesota, and you know, Ant could go off at any time. So
right.
I'm fast forwarding. So you go back to
yeah. So I mean, like, I want a winning record. I don't want like a 500 split on this road trip. So I don't know where it's gonna come, but they gotta, to me, find a way to win at least one of those back-to-backs. And then I don't know, but I want the record to be 3-1 when they're done at a minimum. Like, you know, obviously 2-2 is a split. But I want them to be 3-1. I definitely don't want them to lose too many. With the back-to-back in there, I don't think Klay is going to be playing, right? And Otto doesn't play back-to-backs either. So, I mean, my guess is I don't think he'll rest them on the same night. So my guess is like one night, whatever night Klay plays, Otto won't. And whatever night Otto plays, Klay won't. And I'm guessing that Otto is going to want to play versus Chicago, but I don't know if the Warriors are going to care about that. some people have also suggested that like Chicago has a significant meaning to Klay because he broke the record there. So he could want to play there, but I don't know. I figure like with it being Otto's old team, he would want to like, players like going back to their old teams. So
yeah, I think that's bigger than setting a record somewhere. And also, I think Milwaukee's pretty good. So if you put Klay up against Milwaukee, that works just fine as well.
I agree. I feel like Milwaukee's still probably the better team. And so I want Klay for that game, but I don't know what they're going to do. So as far as like the Grizzlies, I mean, what do you think with them being down Dylan Brooks and us going into that game? How do you like the Warriors' chances?
I like the Warriors' chances in every game. I think that this road, back to what you're saying about road trip record, and you want 3-1. I think if Dre is there and fine, and I think it rests him totally precautionary because of this road trip. If this road trip was against Detroit and just a bunch of mediocre teams, sorry Detroit, you always come up when we talk about bad teams lately. Poor Detroit. Usually back in the day we just say Knicks and Clippers, but now the Knicks and Clippers are like respectable, so we can't do that anymore.
Right.
But I think if Dre's healthy,
the Knicks are struggling a little bit, but okay, we'll give them a little bit.
A little bit, but for years and years they were like,
of course, no, I'm teasing you. Yeah.
So I think Memphis is gonna be tough. Without Dylan Brooks, they waxed the Lakers. So in LA, which isn't like the biggest achievement of all time this season, but the Lakers have been a little bit friskier just over the last week or so. So the fact that they came in, and that they wanted to win that game
against not so great teams, though. That's why exactly. I wasn't that impressed, and I tweeted about it, and then they, ratioed me or put me in a pack.
Of course, yes, because that's
packed me up. So people say like whatever. That shit was on mute. They were talking to themselves, but
exactly.
Yeah, but I wanted to see them do it against like a top team, and they didn't. So I still feel the same about the Lakers. But yeah, the Grizzlies are. I think we can do it, but they're going to be in Memphis, right?
It's going to be in Memphis. So that's going to be a wild atmosphere. The Grizzlies are 28-14. They're
on a win streak right now too, right? Let me check.
I don't know how long that win streak is.
I think it's like a 9-game win streak. Let me check.
Oh, serious? I had no idea.
I'm going to look. Go ahead. Finish your thought. I'm going to check.
So, to me, the Grizzlies are looking like the Suns of last year, where if everything fell into place and the best teams had one of their best guys go down, that they could actually make it to the finals if everything went their way. I don't think that's going to happen this year, because I also think that the top teams in the West are better than the top teams the West were last year. But they're sort of that young up-and-coming team that could get there a year early. So I don't know. The atmosphere is going to be insane. But that's a good win streak. So they're going to be insane there. It's already a pretty tough home crowd. They play the Warriors really tough. It's a very difficult matchup for them for whatever reason. I think Dylan Brooks, actually, you make good points on him. I think he does mess with Steph to the point where kind of bogs down the Warriors offense a little bit more. I'm looking at their lineup. Really what they deal with not so well are tall, rangy bigs who can run. And so, the fact they got Jaren Jackson Jr. finally healthy, Brendan Clark, those are guys who I think give the Warriors trouble, especially if the Warriors start giving up a lot of offensive rebounds. So if it gets into like a half-court game and the Warriors can't run, I don't really like their chances as much as if their defense plays the way that it should. Then they get out in transition, and when they get out in transition, they don't try to, do hot dog one-arm passes. I don't want to sound like Fitz, complaining about one-handed passes, but it is true sometimes. I think if they play as sort of within themselves as they did against Phoenix on Christmas Day, that was an almost perfect game for them. They played outstanding, but they also they had their focus on the entire time. They're going to have to this road trip, but I think they know it, and I think that's why Klay came back tonight was for Sunday night's game.
Road trip
is because he knows that this road trip is a good playoff test for them, and he probably wanted. He's like, I'm healthy, and Rick Celebrini said you're good. The scrimmages, he was good, and the Warriors actually kind of need him.
Yeah, you know what's interesting though is that the Warriors, I think, have one of the best half court offenses in the league, which is, I don't know if that's surprising, but they do. Um, I like that stat because I'm like, okay, this means that you guys are going to be able to do okay in the postseason.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I'm
like,
sure they will.
people are so concerned about their lack of interior defense, right? But I'm just like, but that hasn't been costing them games, And they out rebound a lot of teams that are like that, even have length over them, right? So I mean, so far we haven't really seen them pay for that. So we'll see. I mean, just the Grizzlies are really good. So I don't sleep on them anymore like I did before. I think they're like a real team. So we'll just have to see. But I'm rooting for us to get this W. So I'm hoping we do.
I know you are.
I know this guy Bane, he shoots the ball well. And he has a chip on his shoulder because he felt he got looked over.
Yeah, he was 5 for 8 from 3 against Lakers on Sunday night. So he's one of those guys where he's don't really look at the box score and go, oh yeah, got to worry about him. But he's much better. I mean, it's sort of the same thing as Brunson when the Warriors played the Mavericks. It's like, oh yeah, you kind of forgetting it. Then he starts playing against them like, oh, he's like the kind of torching the way Fred VanVleet does sometimes. And actually, he's a good player now. So yeah, you have to. You can't really look past these guys. You have to have appropriate fear. No, I'm just kidding. That's like Steve Kerr saying. I don't actually use that in daily conversation.
So I think Ja Morant deserves the second starting spot as a guard on the All-Star team. I couldn't decide who I thought it should be. I'm not that moved by either Booker or Donovan. I know a lot of people are just saying it should be one of them or even Chris Paul, which I moved even less by because like they're one of the like top two teams. But I'm just like, but really has like their play, like, I mean, Donovan's had some decent stats and Book is a little less than him and he's missed some games, but I still just wasn't really moved by them. And then I remembered that Ja had went out injured for a while, which is probably why I wasn't thinking about him. And then when he came back and reminded us how great he had been playing so far this season, I'm like, no, it's Ja. I think Ja needs to get the second spot. So because Luka is very popular and he might get it, but I don't think he deserves to be a starter this year.
No, I don't think so either. It's but he will because he's Luka and he's been anointed. He hasn't deserved it just based on. Well, I mean, I think the Mavericks have been playing well lately, but he hasn't actually been in the lineup all the time. And
yeah, they are playing better now, but I just think as a year so far, granted, and he's missed some games, but I just think if I think of Ja, Luka, Donovan, and Booker, I think by far Ja's having the best season out of all of them, in my opinion.
He might get there. I'm looking at the returns, and Ja's only 100,000, 120,000 behind Luka for the number 2 spot.
He was in the range, yeah.
It's hilarious that Klay's in 4th.
It is. And I got to tell you, I'm going to keep voting for Klay too. So I don't know how that's going to work because, there's the online ballot like on NBA.com. There's also the app. And then there's, your Twitter account. And I actually have 3 Twitter accounts. I vote on all of them. So sometimes I give Ja a vote. Sometimes I give Klay a vote. I know it's totally not right for Klay to be in the game, but I feel like all that he's lost, he deserves everything. So I'm gonna keep voting for him anyway.
It's a fan vote. Like, who cares? I mean,
but how about Wiggins, who he's the most impressive to me. He has more votes than Draymond. And he is in
by a lot.
And he's in 4th with a chance to overtake Paul George,
who probably won't be ready for the All-Star game. I mean, I haven't heard a thing about his elbow in quite some time. Sounds to me like it's a possible surgery. So we might be talking about season ending for Paul George. He might come back, but like they said, 5 to 8 weeks, and they're not sure could be on the
Is it
longer
that
side of that.
long?
Yeah,
5 to 8?
yeah, it was pretty serious. Yeah, last time I checked, he's on one of my fantasy teams, so I'm checking this very closely because when he went down, it kind of hamstrung one of my teams. Obviously, no one listening cares, but the no, it's a serious elbow injury. Like at first, it was like an elbow strain, and he was trying to shoot through it, and then next thing you knew, they're like, yeah, he's out for several weeks.
So I mean, because he got the report on his injury came out the day All-Star voting started. So I had actually already voted for him earlier in the day, but I said, okay, well, going forward, I'm not going to be voting for him anymore because he's injured. So because the coaches are definitely going to put Draymond in, but I think that like Andrew would be like possible, but maybe not a definite. So if he gets voted in, that's it. He's in. And because like even if he only gets the fan vote but doesn't get like the what is it, the media and the player vote, the fan vote ends up like trumping those if he wins that in full. So it's just so impressive to me that he's fourth. It's so impressive to me that he has more votes than Dre. Like that is like really remarkable. And I want Andrew Wiggins on that team. I think he deserves it. So he's also getting a lot of my votes as well. Did you see that like the K-pop community was voting for him?
Yes, I did. Yeah, they're unstoppable.
My gosh. And did you see like how, because all the LeBron fans got like upset that Steph was like in first and like is right now positioned to be captain. So they did this whole campaign to like try to get Bron more votes. And so then people started voting more for Steph too. And so there was this really funny tweet because they're like, you thought we weren't going to bring reinforcements. And it shows like Bron's number at the beginning, how it was like way ahead of Steph. And then the final number and Steph overtook him. I was like, oh my God. This is the fun stuff about being a fan.
Okay, so no, I was wrong about Paul George. I was overestimating. They said the team will reevaluate him in 3 to 4 weeks to see if rest can get him on a pathway to recovery. To me, that doesn't sound great. Torn ligament in his right elbow. I mean, I come from the MLB background.
Figured that
if you have that as a pitcher, you're done.
I figured he'd probably be back sometime in February, but I felt like that, like, so he'll probably be back by All-Star game. I just felt like that he'd be missing too much time, that it didn't seem, fair to reward him. And I say that as I still vote for Klay, but whatever, that's my logic. So it's great. And if Steph pulls out being a captain, that's also impressive, just because when you think of the how large the Laker fan base is, you combine that with the LeBron stan base, it's pretty, because I mean, Steph had been beating Bron a lot in terms of getting more all-star votes, when he was in Cleveland. But once he moved to Lakers, I'm just like, okay, forget it. Because you're like, it's now Lakers plus LeBron stan. So the fact that he's leading this year is tremendous. If he can hold that lead, that would be pretty incredible. And I keep saying, like, if he does get captain, who's he picking first, Andrew or Draymond?
Draymond.
Okay,
I think so. I mean, they've been boys forever.
Right. I mean, he's gonna pick his two teammates first, which in a way might end up hurting his team because
although
Kevin Durant, if he wins, actually, he would pick Harden. But then after that, that'd be his only teammate. So then he could right after that.
I don't think Steph picks his two teammates first. I think he picks Giannis.
No, he's picking his two teammates first. When he was captain, that's what he did last time.
We should make a bet on this. I think he goes Giannis just because he knows that he can get those guys a little bit later, and he'd like to win that game. And Giannis and him are boys too. Like I remember, I was one of the last games I covered was when the Bucks were in town, and Giannis walks into the locker room with the Steph autographed jersey, and that's I took a picture and I don't think I took a picture, I just tweeted out, and that was back when Giannis, they didn't know if he was going to sign the extension. That thing went viral so fast, and every Warriors fan grabbed onto that, and they're like, oh my God, that means Giannis is coming. But I don't know. I think he goes Giannis first. Katie goes Harden, and then he goes Draymond and Wiggins, or Wiggins and Draymond, and fills out his team the rest
I
of the way.
mean, it would be smart because, like, I agree, people aren't going to pick those guys right away. If we're being candid, when you think of like the other players that will probably be available, but I don't know. I feel like he's gonna pick his guys first.
Or maybe he picks LeBron first as sort of an olive branch.
I hope not. I don't want them ever on the same team again. I don't like when they're like buddies and playing together. Listen, I'm old school. I like animosity. The teams hate each other.
Yep.
Fans hate each other. I don't like all this buddy shit. Like,
I agree.
Give me the old school, like, I don't mess with you, get away from me. That's what I want.
We get it. You're all making $40 or $50 million a year, but you should still be angry with each other anyways.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, look, Steve, this has been so much fun. And guys, like, Steve and I are going to keep this conversation going because just big week for the Warriors. So I'm going to have him back and we're going to get into not Memphis. We already talked about them. We're going to get into Milwaukee. We're going to get into the Bulls. We're going to talk about the rest of the week, but I'm going to stop here because this was a lot. And I'm so grateful, Steve, for your time and your knowledge and chopping it up with me. I really appreciate you always.
Oh, I appreciate you too, Nat, and grateful for you to have me on. I'm excited for.
I'm grateful you're on.
Well, I'm not that big of a deal. Like, I'm not even a member of Warriors Twitter, for God's sakes. You know, I'm just sort of like an outlier. Like, you know,
no,
I used to
know you. We know you.
I used to like be at every practice, not every practice, but like most practices, every game back in the day when I had my own website. But you know, you sell out to the man and you do what the man tells you to do. I enjoy The Athletic. I guess now we're owned by the New York Times, which is interesting, but hopefully good. And but yeah, no, it's great.
When did that happen?
This week. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that news.
On Thursday. Yeah, I woke up at 7 a.m. First thing I did was check my phone. I see my buddy on there tweeting about how the New York Times has reportedly bought The Athletic for $550 million straight cash. And then later that afternoon, it was announced that indeed is exactly what happened. So apparently they're going to keep all the Athletic employees, and we're just going to be a subsidiary of the New York Times, whatever that means. And they're going to leave us alone. Who knows how long that will occur? But for now, it seems like we're all good. And so, yeah, you can call me a New York Times contributor, even though I'm totally not a New York Times contributor. But no, thanks for having me on, Nat. I really appreciate it. I know it's late on your end, so thank you for staying up with me. And yeah, always fun hanging out and talking to you about the Warriors and the NBA in general.
Yeah. Okay. You guys are going to be a wholly owned sub of the New York Times. Yeah. I would
like Wirecutter.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything to happen in the near future, but something will happen at some point, but you'll just be on your P's and Q's, you know. Yep, it won't be near future. So
exactly.
They're gonna come in, assess, figure out what they need to do, what they want to do, blah blah blah. So you have time, but yeah, I've been in that situation before where we operated as like a wholly owned sub for a long time, and then eventually, and it took a few years, so it can really range. But and I mean, I was still with the company after they made their changes, but they always make their changes and, like, you know, make their
absolutely
mark. So
I know hopefully it'll stay as similar as to what it is now, because I think a lot of people like The Athletic for what it is and don't want the New York Times to come in and just do wholesale changes, and especially, you know, lay off a bunch of people. Obviously,
I certainly like you guys. I mean, I read some of the other like athletic reporters, but I like reading your work. Love Marcus and Slater, you know, so there's certain people that I really, really like. So, you know, I will just be cheerleading and rooting for you guys and hoping that no matter what changes come, that you guys will be good and safe no matter what, because we enjoy your work and I need it to continue.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I know, you too. All right. So thank you for agreeing to be on with me again this week for another episode. I can't wait to talk to you some more. But for tonight, we're going to end things. You guys, make sure that you are, I don't know, like anyone who wouldn't be following Steve already, but if you're not, follow him. He knows his stuff. Like, even though he's covering a lot of baseball, I'm sure there's a lot of baseball fans anyway, but like he's always tweeting about the games and talking about them, as you can see from now. He's great. So make sure you're following him, make sure you're reading his work, make sure you're supporting him because he's my guy. And no, but you're one of my favorites, you know that. So make sure you're supporting him, please. He's great. And also make sure you're supporting on that. Okay, it is available on Spotify, Apple, all of those platforms, and now you can do reviews on Spotify. So rate the show, please. Apple, Spotify. If you like to watch on video, subscribe and watch on YouTube. I continue to appreciate the support. I'm humbled by the support, and I thank you all. Until next time, take care.